The theme of the article is Investigation of Aviation Events, International and National Legal Standards. Authors, Candidate of Law Associate Professor Olena Makeyeva and Candidate of Law Lyudmila Shapenko. We work at the Faculty of Law at the Department of Theory and History of State and Law, National Aviation University, Ukraine. The purpose of the article is a comparative analysis of national and international legislation on aviation accidents and incidents investigation, study the level of implementation of the Chicago Convention of 1944 in Ukraine, legislation on aviation accidents investigation, to ensure aviation safety and improve legal regulation of aviation accident investigation, identifying prospects for the future research in this area and ways to solve the problem. General scientific methods and approaches were used in the process of scientific research. To study the problem of implementation of international law, a comparative legal method was used to determine the level of aviation events and accidents, a statistical method. One of the priorities of aviation in the 21st century is to ensure flight safety. An important way to increase flight safety is to investigate aviation accidents by identifying their causes and taking steps to prevent similar incidents in the future. In the current conditions of rapid development of the aviation industry, it is important to study the legal framework for the investigation of aviation accidents and incidents, the study of national and international standards for the mechanism of investigation of aviation incidents. Studying this issue will help to focus the attention of aviation personnel on the established norms and recommendations, which will help to avoid aviation accidents and the circumstances of incidents. Ukraine is a member of many international organizations that regulate relations in the field of aviation. Such organizations include the International Civil Aviation Organization, ICAO, which aims to develop principles and methods for international air navigation and to promote the planning and development of air transport to ensure the safe development of international civil aviation worldwide. Ukraine has been a member of this organization since September 9, 1992. Ukraine is also a member of the European Organization for the Safety of Air Navigation, Eurocontrol, European Organization for the Safety of Air Navigation since May 1, 2004. Among the organizations that include Ukraine are Joint Aviation Authorities, Interstate Aviation Committee, European Organization of Civil Aviation Equipment, and European Organization of Civil Aviation Equipment and others. The International Civil Aviation Organization develops international standards for the investigation of aviation accidents and incidents on the basis of and in accordance with the Convention of International Civil Aviation adopted in Chicago on December 7, 1944. ICAO standards are contained in 18 annexes to the Chicago Convention, as well as many guidelines that provide practical guidance on the implementation and application of them. To determine the level of implementation of international law into national law, consider Annex 13 to the Chicago Convention on the investigation of aviation cases. Thus, according to the annex, the state where the accident took place shall take all necessary measures to preserve the physical evidence and ensure the reliable protection of the aircraft as well as everything that is there for the time necessary for the investigation. It shall also send a notification of a plane crash or serious incident with minimal delay in the most convenient and expeditious manner to the state of registry, the state of operator, and the state of manufacturer. The next step for the scene to initiate the investigation into the circumstances of the accident and be responsible for conducting such an investigation, but may transfer all or part of that investigation to another state or regional accident investigation organization by mutual agreement and consent. A full-fledged aviation investigation body shall be established, which shall be granted independence in conducting the investigation and unlimited powers to conduct it in accordance with the provisions of this annex. According to this annex, the investigation includes the following stages: collection, registration, and analysis of all relevant information on the aviation incident or accident, if necessary, development of safety recommendations, if possible, establishing the causes or factors, and final decision. States should not disseminate, publish, or permit the use of draft reports or any other documents obtained in the course of an aviation accident investigation, except where such reports or documents have already been published or made public for those latter states. What provisions of national law contain the legal basis for the investigation of aviation accidents? Do the rules of international law apply in national law? National legislative acts of Ukraine include the Air, Customs, Criminal Codes of Ukraine, the Code of Ukraine on Administrative Offenses, Laws of Ukraine, Law of Ukraine on the State Program of Civil Aviation Security, Aviation Rules of Ukraine, Rules of Air Transportation and Passenger and Baggage Service, on the National Police, on the Security Service of Ukraine, on the State Border Guard Service of Ukraine, on border control, on operational and investigative activities, and many others. In accordance with the regulations on the National Bureau for Investigation of Aviation Accidents and Incidents of Civil Aircraft, hereinafter the National Bureau, it was established to conduct technical investigations of aviation accidents, serious incidents, emergencies, damage to civil aircraft, violation of the use of airspace, in particular during the maintenance and organization of air traffic, hereinafter aviation events that occurred in Ukraine with civil aircraft. Second, ensuring participation in the technical investigation on the territory of foreign states in which there have been aviation accidents with civil aircraft of Ukraine. Third, preparation of conclusions and recommendations based on the results of collection, analysis, research, and generalization of data related to flight safety, in order to prevent aviation events that occurred on the territory of Ukraine. The analysis of listed legislative acts shows that special laws and bylaws take into account the recommendations of International Organization ICAO on the investigation of aviation accidents in the interaction of interested state bodies, but do not regulate in detail the procedural issues of interaction of investigative bodies and experts. A study of the international legal experience of cooperation between law enforcement and technical aviation investigators show that ICAO's recommendations for investigations by the competent authorities of state are being complied with, and that state parties comply with the principle of non-interference when necessary. The analysis of legal norms gives grounds for conclusions about the need to amend the current legislation in order to harmonize it and ensure proper and effective performance of the duties of the National Bureau. The National Bureau for the Investigation of Aviation Accidents and Incidents with Civil Aircraft is an extremely important body for ensuring flight safety, identifying threat factors, and preventing risks of accidents and incidents in civil aviation, while its powers are defined by regulation governing the appointment of very limited functions. In order to improve the legal regulation of aviation accident investigation, it is expedient to adopt a special law of Ukraine on the National Bureau for Investigation of Aviation Accidents and Incidents with Civil Aircraft, which should, in accordance with international standards, regulate the structure, functions, powers, procedures, and conditions of international cooperation, as well as its interaction with relevant authorities and public authorities, etc. Thank you for your attention.